Be the Change با من بیتا میلانیان. قصه ما مهاجران.
با سلام و خوش آمد به 17مین برنامه بی دی چینج با من بیتا میلانیان از رادیو ایران 670 AM KIRN. امیدوارم همه دوستانی که امروز 22 آگوست سال 2021 از هر جای دنیا به این برنامه گوش میکنید تندرست و خوشحال باشید و با سپاس همیشگی از تیم فنی و مدیریت رادیو ایران. این برنامه ماهانه بی دی چینج که در اینستاگرام، فیسبوک و یوتیوب هم پخش میشه میزبان شخصیت‌های تاثیرگذار ایرانی آمریکایی است. اگر این مسابقه رو تا به حال گوش نداده اید حتما توصیه میکنم که یا از وبسایت رادیو و یا صفحات شخصی من در سوشال میدیا حتما به اونها گوش کنید. امروز افتخار این رو دارم که با یک شخصیت دیگر ایرانی آمریکایی جوان و تاثیرگذار در رشته کاری خود گفتگوی خودمونی در مورد قصه مهاجرت، موفقیت‌ها و برنامه‌های آینده ایشون رو داشته باشم. میهمان امروز من دکتر داریوش مغانکی، پروفسور و رئیس بخش آنکولوژی قفسه سینه در دانشگاه UCLA می باشند. قبل از اینکه بگم بیوگرافی کوتاه ایشون رو به زبان انگلیسی بخونم، من دکتر مغانکی رو افتخارش دارم که چند سال هست یکی از اولین دوستان من بودن در لس آنجلس و مدت طولانی هست که همدیگر رو ندیدیم. بنابراین برای من این مصاحبه خیلی مخصوص‌تر هست. خوش آمد میگم به دکتر مغانکی، ولی همونطوری گفتم قبلش بیوگرافی ایشون رو به زبان انگلیسی براتون میخونم به طور خیلی مختصر تا بتونیم صحبتمون رو با ایشون ادامه بدیم به زبان انگلیسی و فارسی هر دو. Dr. Drew Moghanaki is a professor and chief of Thoracic Oncology at the UCLA Department of Radiation Oncology. He holds a joint appointment at the Greater Los Angeles Veteran Affairs Medical Center, where he directs patient care and research for veterans with lung cancer. He leads several national lung cancer initiatives in the VA. He's been a member, advisor, and chair of multiple committees for national organizations and advocacy groups that includes the American Cancer Society, American Society of Clinical Oncology, American Society of Radiation Oncology, Radiosurgery Society, Veterans Health Administration, Lungevity Foundation, GO2 Foundation for lung cancer, and the International Association for the Study of Lung Cancer. And he is super young. I don't know how he has accomplished all of this. I look away, Dr. Drew, and here you are, my guest. خوش اومدی به برنامه Be the Change.
سلام بیتا. اولا میخوام خیلی تشکر کنم از این دعوت شما. It is a true honor and pleasure to be on this program with you. And I think I can maybe conclude already the reason I accomplished everything I did was because of very inspiring parenting by both of my parents who were raised in Tehran and came to the US quite a while ago.
And, you know, this is a great segue because your mom has been somebody that she's been truly, she is an lioness and a trailblazer and done so much for the Persian community as one of the first people, Ms. Sherry Jaliban, whom I've had the privilege of knowing for over 33 years. And she has really been the backbone of the family. I know that firsthand. So that's a great segue for you to start off telling us all about your, initial journey coming to the US. I know you were born here, but tell us a little bit about the challenges and the early days of Dr. Drew.
داستان مامان خیلی جالبه. They came to the US in late 60s, so right around the Vietnam War. They went to New York and they had myself and my sister Maggie, and I was raised in New Jersey by Iranian parents. حالا مامان بابام طلاق گرفتن. من فقط با بابام بودم ولی مثلا خونه I just spoke Farsi. And that allowed me to at least learn this language. And as time went on, the 70s, eventually the 80s came. I actually lived in Iran for 1 year. So I got to smell and taste and feel what it was like to live in Tehran. That was very interesting. And but unfortunately, because of all the turmoil, I had to get the heck out of there as quickly as possible. So it took quite a while to get back home. So that was a failed round trip in a way. But the memories will last forever. So I continued to live in New Jersey but I was the only Iranian that I knew. And for me, it was very difficult because it was a very traditional town, Princeton, the home of the infamous Ivy League university, lots of wealthy, super smart, influential people. I had this name, Dariush Moghanaki, and people didn't know how to pronounce it. It was always embarrassing. People would make fun of you, and you weren't taken seriously. And sometimes even if I went to my friend's house, their parents I could tell they were really, I was being interrogated. Who am I? Am I a possible risk to them and their family? And these sorts of weird feelings. So I kind of grew up around this, the shadow over myself. But what was refreshing is after the revolution in the summers, New Jersey gets very hot in the summers. And slowly but surely, all my mom and her family were moving to LA and Orange County. So I would get on a plane and come to California and go to the beach and the sunshine and the cool breeze and start to meet more and more Persian people in my family who I didn't know. Why would I know my family? I was alone with my dad in New Jersey. And all of a sudden, all these people came who were from Tehran and Rash and Shiraz and all these tastes. I had no idea. And I got to meet all these people, and it was very inspiring. But then I would go back to New Jersey at the end of the summer and deal with this kind of the struggle of being the first generation.
The dual identity crisis that most of us have gone through and trying to prove ourselves in the process.
Yeah, I wonder if that's why Iranians are such overachievers, is because we feel that chip on our shoulders. I think we see it in other immigration and first generation. I actually have colleagues in academic medicine that says, you want a hard worker, find a first generation person, because they're going to work harder than, second or third generation, even if they're from another country. So pick your country, immigration country of interest. The second and third generation are nowhere as strong as the first generation.
Very true. Very true. Your sister and I, have been very close friends for all these years. And, she's another great example of, working hard. Both of us met when we were in our early, late teens, and always worked full time, always tried to help out with the family. It's been part of our DNA, and we didn't even think twice about it. It was just part of the process to work hard and really go for our dreams and not be dependent on our parents, because we saw our parents struggling and trying to find their ways at the same time. So it was kind of an organic development within first generation immigrant families.
Yeah, definitely there is that inspiration, but I tell you, it's a challenge because, life in America is easy. You want to have a good time. You don't want to work too hard. And so you end up in this kind of balance. How do you balance your desire for social connection, to meet people, versus, okay, you got to go do your homework and you got to keep striving. So at the end of the day, I think that desire to be successful has to come from some other place other than, I have to prove myself. Because it's very easy to fall off of that sort of, I guess hamster wheel. You're just running on a wheel, because it's easy just to step off the wheel and say, well, why am I running? Who am I trying to impress? And I think I had that realization when I finally got into my 30s. I was talking to a very good friend, and we were asking, what are your life goals? And I was like, I think I confessed and said, I want to prove to those people that I am somebody, whoever those people are. And I realized how ridiculous that's not a good motivation. So I was able to purge that from my system. And then I could finally, and all of us as kids, we finally hear our parents when we become adults. We realize, okay, now I remember what my parents were saying, which was, do something important with your life. Make a difference. My mom, who always takes care of people in need, made me realize I really do want to take care of people in need. There's so much joy. It's the most rewarding thing. And I realized, just be a giver in life. And so medicine, of course, is a great profession where you can just be a giver. I just show up to work and I give all day long. It's great. Obviously, we make a good living, but I just give all day long. I give my cell phone numbers to my patients. They call me at night and the weekends. I'm just giving, and I can sleep well at night because of that. And then I have my father who says, look, don't just be a doctor. I'm like, what do you mean? I thought he was looking to be a doctor. No, he's like, at some point you're going to retire. You need to look back at your career. Did you actually make the world a better place or not? So I guess so what I'm trying to say is once I cleared the noise of having this axe to grind or prove myself, I was lucky that I had two very inspirational parents that led me to, do the right thing and follow the right path.
Speaking of your father, it needs to be said that he has been an incredibly accomplished artist and professor himself. That's why he lived in New Jersey. And I think, can you actually talk a little bit about your dad? Because, he's been, he's really somebody who's done such incredible work, and not many Iranians probably know about his work. Can you just touch quickly on what he was doing while you were being the single, being the kid, living with your dad in New Jersey and going through all those challenges?
Yeah, even though I had siblings, and then my mother got remarried, had another sibling, a step sibling, but it was like it was like a only child with a single father who's an immigrant. And again, you don't realize these things until you grow up and realize, my gosh, must have been so hard. So he's a genius. He is a incredibly well-read, just remembers everything that he reads. And he was a sculptor. And he was able to work for some very influential people and ateliers and art studios, and spent some time at the university as well. And he was into this very abstract art and he's like, I don't know if he's intentionally keeping it like a riddle, or maybe maybe he really doesn't know what it means. He says, I try to ask him, explain, what do your sculptures mean? He says, you will know if you keep looking at it. What does that mean? Tell me a clue.
نگاه کن میفهمی یه روزی چیه.
آره توجه بده.
توجه بده.
فکر کن.
But some of his work, I remember Maggie, your sister, sent me photos. Aren't some of his sculptures at some of the universities at the IB schools there?
Yeah, he has them in different like state museums and courthouses and on displays. Actually, right now I'm in communications with the permanent collections curator at the Princeton University Art Museum to see if they're interested in having his piece there. But he supported a lot of people in the community. But kind of get back to what his art actually was I would look at it. Eventually, started giving me some clues. He goes, these these ancient rulers of Iran, Persia, right? He says, you've seen the figures from Persepolis. Look at the images a little more carefully. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's like molded these ancient imagery into like the fabric of the kaleidoscope of, immigration in the US. Like he's made a lot of US flags. And they have all these various shapes and colors and it's just there and every time I look at these pieces, I see something different. But what's really tucked in there is ancient Persian history.
Yes, I've seen some of his work. It's pretty incredible. So can you say his full name? So for those interested can go hopefully look him up.
Sure, of course, like many immigrants, his birth name was Habibullah Moghanaki, but he reduced it to Habib, Habi, Mogh, M-O-G-H. You're kind of like Vincent van Gogh.
Yes.
He's Habib
Mogh. Perfect. Love it. So back to you having these two really, strong figures in your life. How did you choose your path to education when you graduated high school? Did you graduate in Jersey?
I did. I graduated from the Princeton High School there, and I wanted nothing more than to move to California. So I came here for college, and I did graduate school. And for me, it was just, I would be a disappointment if I didn't have a college degree in something very challenging.
This was an appointment to yourself or to your parents?
My father.
Your father, okay.
And then my mother used to she would sing. She said, "Pesar man doctor dare mishe." And I just wanted to be a biochemist. I wanted to do like neuroscience. And she's like, "Nah, to doctor dare mishe." So she planted the seed, and I resisted it for like so many years. And eventually, so I had to have my own aha moment that I really want to wear a white coat and work in a hospital. And so I actually challenged myself. My last year of college, I worked in a nursing home, just kind of taking care of like really debilitated patients. And so that I realized I really do like taking care of people who are, ill or recovering or whatever. That's
a great challenging task to bring onto yourself to take care of the elderly. I mean, that's a great task. So, where did you go to school here? Because this is a really important decision in any young person's life. But most immigrant children, I myself, didn't have access to so much information, or the parents didn't know how to choose the path of where do you go to school. You were lucky enough that your father was, or you were living in a city that was very studious and around, academics and what have you. But it's hard finding your path to education and what you want to do when you grow up is not as easy. So how did you decide that do you remember why you wanted to become a biochemist, and why, other than the fact you wanted to come to California? I assume you went to UCLA. Yeah.
Well, thanks for reminding me. I mean, it wasn't easy. It was very tough. My dad didn't know how to navigate the system. So I was lucky to grow up in an academic environment. But all like the kids, my classmates in high school, they had a lot of guidance. They had teachers, they had parents who were professors at the university. I had to figure it out on my own, and I stumbled a lot. I didn't do well. I didn't have the coaching. For example, you have to take the SAT exam to get into a good college. I didn't take a course for an SAT exam. No one, my dad didn't know about it, right? So I didn't get into a great school. I got into one of the Cal State schools in Pomona, and I struggled. And after a couple of years, actually, I withdrew from college. I went to a community college trying to figure all this out because I didn't have mentors. And I started as a math major, and later on, I started to discover science, and it took me 6 years to get through college. I had to move back at home for a while, and I would have been a lot more efficient if I had parents that actually grew up in this country. So, my father set the bar for me of excellence and do something great, but he kind of allowed me to stumble. I think you learn a lot during that stumble. So today, many years later, like I've been a school of admissions interviewer at several different medical schools. And I noticed that, even college graduates who are trying to get into medical school, there's basically there's two types of applicants. There's those who clearly have been mentored. They say all the right things. They know all the answers. They did all the right things. They checked all the boxes. And I think it's because someone told them. Yes. And then you get the other kids who you're like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And when I interview them, no one told them. And that's really the difference. Is like, so we as even as a first generation, yeah, sure, we're not an immigrant, but we're still stumbling because we don't have that mentorship and guidance. And I think that's why the second generation has a completely different lifestyle. Like I was able to, all the things that I struggled and I learned the hard way, I was able to, help save my kids from having to endure and make those same mistakes.
This is such a crucial part of this journey. Because it's a soft spot for myself, because it's one of the areas that I struggled with, and I feel like my path would have been different had I had more access to information when it came time to choosing my education path, and thereafter, no regrets, but still, it would have been a different journey.
I have a quick question for you. Like when was it when you realized, I had this huge missed opportunity that had I been mentored, it wouldn't have taken me this long to achieve my goals?
I think for me was definitely, again, this is it, my educational, because when I came here in 1989, I graduated in 91. Again, I had just came from Germany, and then next thing I know, I'm graduating high school, and I just so happened that I passed by the auditorium and I saw a bunch of kids filling out forms, and I'm like, what's going on here? And they told me, oh, they're filling out application for college. And I guess I took the SATs because they said this is a test you have to take. I didn't even know what SATs are. And that's when, and I did get accepted into UCLA and Cal State Northridge. And the only reason I went to Cal State Northridge is because my parents, because we didn't want to move to the West Side, the whole logistics of it, and I can't move out of the house. Like, how's that gonna work? So it's okay. We're gonna move to Northridge with you. So that's what I'm saying. Like, had I gone to a UC system versus Cal State, it would have been a different path. I would have met different people. The life would have been different, and thereafter. So, but I'm so grateful that you're sharing all these details about your journey. We're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back and continue talking with Dr. Drew Moghanaki, or Dr. Drew, Dr. Dariusha Moghanaki, and your journey as an Iranian American here in the US.
Be the Change با من بیتا میلانیان. قصه ما مهاجران.
با سلام و خوش آمدید دوباره به برنامه بی د چنج با من بیتا میلانیان. به صحبتمون با دکتر داریوش موغانکی، دکتر درو موغاناکی مهمان عزیز امروز ما هستن. تا به الان داشتیم داستان روزهای جوانی و نوجوانی رو با هم صحبت کردیم، مشکلات و مسائلی که به عنوان first generation Iranian American داشتن و به مدرسه رفتن، به دانشگاه رفتن، به کالیفرنیا اومدن و ادامه میدیم صحبتمون رو. Dr. Drew, let's go back to the conversation and how you continued your path and how you finally had your breakthroughs into the career that you're in today and the incredible accomplishments that you've achieved so far and certainly many more ahead.
I have to share, I think that almost everyone has some sort of a dark time in their life where they find themselves, trapped, not sure what they want to do, and they start to get really worried about their future. And that happened to me after I took some time off of college. I was just working full time, and I looked around myself and realized, I should not be here. I knew I would eventually finish college. My grades were fine. It was a voluntary withdrawal just to have some time off. And then I went back to school and I said, I'm going to do something really important. But the problem was I still didn't have a mentor. I was really just pushing myself. So I'm an endurance athlete, I'm a long distance runner, and I kind of use those same sort of principles of push and push. And then I eventually started meeting people who cared about me, mentors. So I wasn't really around in the Iranian community. I was just kind of, I'm this first generation person now in California. I transferred colleges to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where I finished. And there I started meeting people who started giving me some guidance. Hey, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And they ended up coming to UCLA in grad school, and I started meeting some amazing mentors. And all of a sudden, my life started to change because they would tell me, "Hey, if you just follow this, it's a very simple rubric that if you do this, you will get to the next stage." Mm-hmm. And then it was in medical school. I took a year off during medical school, and I met another mentor, and I started collecting more and more mentors. And they started to be in different places. And email was just starting to come around, 1999, 2000.
Yep.
And I was staying in touch with people. And over time, I was kind of building my own, new support network and having an open perspective to realize that, you can go much farther when standing on other people's shoulders. I think for me, that was the greatest part of the launch of my career, where I realized I really wanted to be in academic medicine. I wanted to do clinical research. I want to help solve and be a part of solving, the lung cancer problem. That's my big focus in oncology is lung cancer. And I just keep meeting more and more mentors along the way. And all of a sudden, eventually over time, you realize how great it was and rewarding it was to be mentored. So now I've started mentoring as much as I can. It's kind of like what we talked about before the break, which was, this spirit of just giving. I just keep giving and I mentor. And I'm so lucky to work in a university where I have students and residents and even junior physicians who are on our staff who want to be mentored. And they come knocking on my door is always open to them. And, that way the whole group as a whole is stronger and you're part of a large community that's actually really making meaningful progress. But I really don't think any of this would have happened had I not finally met some people who took me under their wings.
Yes, absolutely. It's something, in my world, in the, corporate technology, telecommunications world, when I get involved with organizations that it's about mentoring, or if I have a young, professional just entering the business world, ask me for advice, number one is to build your network and to nurture your network and to really the power of networking and really finding these resources and individuals who can really, every little bit of tip and help, really makes a difference. And to really think outside of the bubble that we all are at the beginning of our careers, not really knowing what's the right thing to do, where to go, not how to do things. So I think it's, you touch on a really important point that you were, aware enough to proactively look for those individuals who can help show you the way.
I think there's a loneliness if you don't have these mentors. And I had heard you should network. And I think a lot of people, maybe some of your listeners are wondering, what does that mean? What do you mean network? Why should I network? And I think that some people don't do it the right way. They try to take from others, right? You feel a lot of this, and I don't know. I sense a lot of it in LA. Like, people are always looking to others and what can you do for me? It doesn't work that way, because once the other person realizes you're just taking from them, they're kind of going to tune you out, and you're off the list. Instead, it's just, I think if you're if you really admire someone and you're inspired by them, it always helps to let them know. I know in Iran, we overdo it. Oh, I'm so humble to be around your great presence. I'm not talking about like that. Just to let someone know, hey, I've been reading your work. You really inspire me. Let me tell you why. Because of you, I now follow this and this. Those words are incredibly intoxicating and powerful. And the person, the mentor that you're looking for, all of a sudden actually wants to work with you. Like as a teacher, one of the greatest gifts to any teacher is to have a hungry student who wants to keep coming back and learn more. But it's a weird balance, because I don't feel like they're taking from me. Like they really are appreciated. And so I guess it's a sense of gratitude. Yeah. So if we show gratitude to our mentors, they'll keep mentoring us. And I think that's how your networks grow, where everyone is again, I think also if everyone's kind of part of a mission, where let's say you're in some industry and that industry's objective is to make product X better. If you're all focused on product X and you like working with each other, then I think everyone's willing to help you, because they know that they're not just giving to you, they're investing in you because you're a promising person.
Being honest and genuine in those relationships where you're seeking help and vice versa, I think that's the key.
No one likes a sneaky personality.
Yes, for sure. So at what point did you know that your passion relies in oncology and specifically lung cancer? How did that whole journey begin, and with the incredible achievements that you've had, and becoming the subject matter expert that you are, and all these incredible research work that you're working on right now?
So I eventually got into medical school, and all of a sudden I felt like I was in a candy store. I could be any person I wanted to be. I could become a plastic surgeon, a brain surgeon. I could become a family doctor. How about a pediatrician that tickles little toes and gives little kids, well checks? I had every option to me, but ultimately my mother I had seen her. She had led by example of helping people who are really in trouble. And so I wanted to tackle very tough medical problems, and oncology is very tough. And oncology is very challenging, because it's not just the medical part, but it's the social part. People are so sad. The family is so, they turns their lives upside down. And in a way, you're kind of doing God's work when you're a cancer doctor, because you really are in there. You're providing counseling. You're tackling very difficult biological issues and medicines, and you're coordinating a lot of people to work together. So I got drawn to becoming a cancer physician. And eventually I discovered the amazing technology of radiation oncology, where we use these multi-million-dollar machines that aim these invisible beams and just kind of eradicate tumors inside people's bodies without surgery. It's just amazing technology. And I knew that the microprocessor and computing speeds and all this technology and engineering was going to make our machines more and more precise. And I realized I want to be a part of that. So I am now in probably one of the most technologically advanced specialties in all of medicine, very rigorous with quality checking and making sure his machines are working well. And I just had a patient right now. I just saw him, 20 minutes before this interview. He just had 15 minutes. The machine was treating his tumor in his spine. And I said, did you feel any of that during the 15 minutes? He said, not at all.
Wow.
We just got rid of a cancer that was about to start choking off his spine and paralyzing him. And he's probably going to be able to continue walking because of this sort of treatment. So I was very lucky to have discovered it. And it's I was very lucky to find the right fit for me.
And when you went into lung cancer research, can you talk a little bit about, for the process of you selecting oncology and then specializing in a specific area? How does that whole process work typically? I know for everybody's different, but just a general overview of it.
Yeah, so I was actually my first year in medical school, and unfortunately, one of my favorite uncles got lung cancer here in California. And so I jumped on a plane and came out here. And I got the sense it was just kind of like, it's this cancer that people blame people for getting. And he didn't care. He was very strong and tough. He didn't care about that. He definitely smoked more than he should have. But I really wanted to help again. Maybe there is an immigrant story in here. I wanted to help people who get cancer who are sidelined. So right now, lung cancer kills more people than all the other next 3 cancers combined. Yet it's like America's silent epidemic. No one talks about it. And then if you got lung cancer, and people who get lung cancer, they don't want anyone to know. They're so ashamed. And I said, you know what? Screw that. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to help these people because someone needs to love them, right? Everyone needs to be loved. And I'm not going to be a racist. I'm not going to be prejudicial because, oh, I'll take care of breast cancer, but I don't like taking care of lung cancer. No, I'm going to go take care of those who society is forgetting. And I think that my mother taught me this as well, which is don't ignore people, don't just forget certain segments of society. All people matter, and no one deserves to get lung cancer, and definitely no one deserves to die of lung cancer, no matter what decision they make. And we all know people who smoke, including those who smoke more than they should have. And so I just decided, I'm going to dedicate my life to that. Now, what's been really interesting is when I started doing this, even when you went to medical conferences, the conference, the lectures and stuff about lung cancer, the rooms were largely empty. Even the scientists didn't really care because there weren't any good treatments. People kept dying. And in the last 10 years, all these new drugs have been approved and new technologies with radiation therapy have really, we're now helping more and more people live longer than ever before. And now if you go to an oncology conference, the lung cancer sessions are packed. There's people in the hallway, there's media trucks, there's journalists, everybody wants to know, what's going on in lung cancer because they keep discovering all these drugs. And so finally we're having these amazing breakthroughs. And I am so lucky to be in the middle of all that, getting interviews like today, another interview. So people often say, lung cancer researchers are the rock stars of cancer research.
That's so inspiring and, really heartwarming to know that despite what, the general public who's not really involved with these developments and research, unless you got the bit, you're impacted by the disease. You don't really know the insights of these things. So
yeah, a lot of people don't know lung cancer is very curable. We cure a lot of people with lung cancer. They're living their lives. But the problem is they don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Like, especially we have people who are like business owners or hedge fund managers, and they secretly get their treatment and they don't tell anyone because, their shareholders will probably dump their stock. Right? Oh, he's going to die. No, we cure a lot of people with lung cancer. There's a lot of survivors walking around living with lung cancer.
So what are the, with the few minutes that we've left, what are the current, latest and greatest research or things that's on the horizon that you can share with us at this point before we wrap up?
Well, in oncology right now, the biggest thing is immune therapy, which people may have heard about. And I think that kind of like the COVID vaccine, they make it too complicated. It's very simple. For many years, drug therapy for cancer was drugs that were poisons that tried to poison the cancer. And the problem is it would then poison the person too. And radiation, let's be honest, it's a kind of poison as well, but we don't just stick it in a vein and let it go to your whole body. We aim directly at the tumor, kind of like a surgeon would aim at the tumor. And so radiation technology has gotten really precise, surgical technology has gotten precise, but chemotherapy is still a poison that has to go into your veins. So very recently, there was these new class of drugs that's called immune therapy. So for many years, people thought, if you boosted the immune system, you could help cancer. But most scientists said, that's a bunch of hogwash. What are you talking about? Immune system, immune boosters. And of course, if you live in LA, every other corner is selling some sort of immune booster, right? But we're talking about some serious immune boosters. These are very toxic. Some of them actually potentially dangerous, where when you put it into someone's veins, it ramps up the immune system. It unblinds the cancer. So what the cancers can do is they create like an eggshell around them and your immune system can't see it. And these drugs make the cancers naked and the immune system just goes like Pac-Man and just goes after the cancer, and you get the next scan and you can't see any of the tumors. Now, it doesn't cure people just yet, although we think we might have some cures of people with metastatic lung cancer, but at least the scan is clean, the person can live their life and they're not getting poison. They're getting immune therapy. And so this is kind of where we are, and this is where the future is. We're also learning that certain tumors have certain mutations, and we have drugs that go specifically at that mutation, and these are much better tolerated. So we're getting much more precise with our treatment. So the most exciting thing in oncology right now is that we're getting much better at what we call precision oncology. type of precision medicine.
That's fantastic. Really, really uplifting. And I learned so much from you today, Dr. Gru. And I'm so proud to have you as a member of the Iranian American community, also as a friend. If you were to give advice to the next young Dr. Drew, somewhere here in America, first generation immigrant, what would be your advice?
It's very hard to put yourself back in your shoes again. But I think if you're new to the U.S. or you've got parents who can't speak English, right, is that you have to find those mentors and be like a servant, be servant in what you do, be a doer, be a giver. And eventually, some people say, oh, well, God rewards these people. Well, if you're not religious, it's not just God, it's like other people will reward you too. They'll say, hey, that guy's a nice guy. Because there's this one aphorism I love to live by, which is long after you talk to people, they forget what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. So if you made them feel inspired and they want to invest their time in you, they'll come back and invest their time in you. But if they thought that you were a sneak trying to take something from them, good luck.
Yeah. So being honest in what it is that you're asking for, or the ask, and really have done your homework. Sometimes you see youngsters don't really do the work, the grind, like really go and find the information that you need to have to achieve whatever it is that you want to do, or really reach out. I just recently had a friend of mine, their daughter is looking for a job. She's top of her class, graduated, and just having a challenging time finding the right job opportunity. And she somehow found me and went and told her parents about me, and they said, yes, she's our friend. And the parents contacted me, and really using that's networking to me. During COVID era, that was her way of finding her path. And under 2 months, she found the job that she really would have liked to have. It happened for her, because not through me necessarily, but she did the legwork. So I think that's the other part, that we each have to do our part before we get that mentor or somebody who's going to push us through that path that we're building for ourselves.
Yeah, I think there's two parts to this. One is definitely to, get out of your shell and talk to other people. Talk to people you don't know. That's one, right? People stay in their own social circles. And social media is great because it allows you to connect with those who you might not. So get out of your shell, talk to other people. But their second piece of this is you need to be interesting. You need to be knowledgeable. Read. Not enough people read. And if there's tons of data that show that CEOs in this country are reading on average, 40, 50 books a year. They're not CEOs because they're nice or they look good. They're CEOs because they're knowledgeable. And no matter what topic you talk about, they have something to say. They have an opinion. They have a personal version of that. If you're not reading, and first of all, turn off your television. There's nothing good on television. It's like junk candy. Read books, read novels about people. Be interesting. Have something to share. And then people who are, bigger than you, older and wiser than you, will be interested in you because they'll realize you actually have learning potential. So yeah, network and be interesting and be knowledgeable. Don't try to fake it.
Beautifully said. Thank you again so much for your time. I know how busy you are, and making time to be with us today is really great. We're all grateful for you and for all the great work that you're doing. Wish you and your beautiful family continued happiness and success, and look forward to continuing hearing about your achievements and everything that you're doing to make a difference in the world and being the change.
I'm so happy we know each other, and I'm so glad to have been on the show. Thank you so much, Bita.
Thank you.